welcome you to this EABC GIZ webinar on building regional value chains in the EAC. And our focus today will be on the leather value chain, as well as the vegetables and fruits value chain. Looking at my watch, it is 5 minutes past 2 p.m. East African time. My name is Lamek Wesonga. I work with the East African Business Council as the manager for policy and standards, and I'll be your moderator. I would like to request that probably we just give it about 2 to 3 minutes, then we commence our program for the day. You're welcome. Once again, good afternoon. I think the 2 minutes we had given ourselves are over, and we are set to begin our program for this 1.5 hours. Once again, good afternoon from the East African Business Council Secretariat. You're very much welcome to this EABC GIZ organized webinar on regional value chains. Our key target, as I had earlier introduced to you, was the value chain of leather and fruits and vegetables. We were a bit selective in coming up with these particular value chains, given the multiplier effect within our economies of East Africa. We will be taking you through a program which the IT team will be flashing on the screen. They'll be projecting, and as I had said, this session is going to take us about 1.5 hours to the maximum. Before we begin, I think I would like to first of all appreciate our partners in this, that is GIZ, East Africa, which is the German government agency supported the institution in ensuring that this webinar is held and is a success. We have held quite a number of other webinars with GIZ, and they will be continuing with other webinars, I think, after this. I would also like to appreciate their technical input throughout this process, and in general their support to regional value chain development within the region. On behalf of the CEO, I think who will also be joining us, I would also like to appreciate our members and other stakeholders who have joined in this webinar to come and listen as well as contribute to this conversation of promoting or building these value chains within our EAC region. Probably if our IT team could just take us to the next slide so that we can just take you to a few ground rules for the day. IT team. Just like any other webinar, we will expect you to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Switch off your video when you're not speaking. Respect for one another, contributing to the goal of this meeting, focusing on the topic at hand. We have a chat room. If you have any question to be raised, you're free to get into our chat room, send us a question, comment, such that we make this webinar as a success as possible, and such that we capture those key policy recommendations you want us to advance to the policy makers. And then this meeting, for purposes of reporting, we will be recording it, and we hope this is okay with you all. Yes, IT team, if we may proceed with the program, kindly. This is our brief program. I'm doing part of the introductions to the session. However, we also have other program items under this, which is supposed to be taking about 10 minutes. And within us, we have the CEO of the East African Business Council. He will be giving us some few remarks, as well as a representative from one of our partners, GIZ, who is also here. We shall go into the main presentation for the day. We have a presenter, Mr. Sylvester Kime, also with us here. And then we shall also be going to the discussions as well as the question and answer session. After that, we'll be doing the closing. We shall have some closing remarks at the end of it all. So at this juncture, allow me to invite the CEO of the East African Business Council, Dr. Peter Mathuki, to give his remarks. I see the CEO would be having some challenges joining in. Could we then get to the representative of GIZ?
Yes, Lamek.
Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the invitation and apologies for the noise in the background as I am joining in from home. But just quickly, maybe to introduce myself, my name is Marvin Nwagaba Marvin Hector. I'm a senior trade policy advisor here at the GIZ Simple project, and I'm here representing on behalf of GIZ. So first, let me extend apologies as well as greetings from the management team, which is of course our cluster coordinator, Dr. Karsten Fokken, and the deputy program manager, Ban Schmidt. And then also appreciate and take cognizance of the work that EABC has been doing with regard to policy advocacy, even before COVID, during COVID. And of course, this has been exemplified through the different webinars, as my colleague Lamek mentioned, in the different topics and themes, starting on, the impact of COVID on business, as well as the private sector position on the AFC. Now we are talking about the building the regional value chains. Maybe just to give you a small scope of the work that GIZ is doing in this regard, we support mainly two components that work in the agro sector. The first one is RIVA, which is basically the regional industrial value addition with specific focus on farmer and the sectors of leather and fruits and vegetables, which, as I see, will be the topic for today. And then, of course, there's an additional component that is markup, which focuses on market access for specific sectors such as coffee and other horticultural products. I think it is very relevant, this topic. I mean, we have been talking about building value chains in the manufacturing sector, in other sectors. So it's really interesting to see the ideas and recommendations that will come out from this exchange. And of course, from our side, when it comes to fruits and vegetables under the RIVA component, we have supported, we are supporting the development of the fruits and vegetable strategy and action plan. And of course, we conducted an EAC study on levies, fees, and charges of equivalent effect, which I think would be a considerable input. So from our side, we are really glad and we commend the efforts of the EABC through this platform. And of course, we look forward to working with you to come up with the different interventions and also the respective partners. Maybe the last comment I would say is that I think advocacy is really key, but apart from identifying the respective issues and then, of course, communicating these issues to the respective decision makers, it is then, I think, really relevant for EABC as an organization to then communicate what has been agreed and decided, the respective policies at the regional level that have been adopted back to their members so that they can take advantage of the benefits and opportunities. Otherwise, again, from GIZ, it's just a vote of thanks, a vote of gratitude, and I wish you all a fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marvin, for those remarks. And thank you so much for availing yourself to be part of this engagement. I think we will now straight go into our next agenda, which is the presentation from the study which we undertook. And I would like now to invite Mr. Sylvester Kimeu to make his presentation. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Lamek, for those pertinent and brief introduction. My name is Sylvester Kilunja, Project Assistant at the Business Council, and I'm going to take you through today's brief presentation on building regional value chains in the EAC with a focus on leather, fruits, and vegetables. So maybe just to get straight into it, the thing with the value chains is that it's often a school of thought that many people, many sectors, that don't really comprehend. But we are here, of course, to dissect the value chains and to see how how they can be able to assist in doing value addition, especially in our region. And for today, our focus will be on leather and fruits and vegetables. And the value chains, of course, they are very central to socioeconomic transformation in developing countries. And that is the vast majority of African nations, and even right here at the heart of East Africa. And therefore, dissecting the value chains is really important. And, from the leather chain perspective, there are very many challenges when it comes to, of course, doing value addition and products for the final products. And that is why we see that the large amount of the produce is the wet blue, which is really in its primary form. And we have very, very little to no value addition. And again, for fruits and vegetables, we usually find that, of course, while our industries are really nascent, we really don't do much of a processing of all these commodities. Of course, we have seen good developments with the likes of Del Monte in Kenya, Bakresa in Tanzania, the likes of the Minute Meat products by Coca-Cola. But we can do more, and let us dissect, let us see the challenges that are hearing in those value chains, and see the recommendations that we can put forward to our policymakers, to the private sector, to improve on this. And maybe just now to kick off, at the EAC level is an industrialization and policy strategy that aims to raise manufacturing share of to at least 25% from the current 10%, expand trade in manufacturing by increasing interregional manufacturing exports to the tune of at least 25% by 2032, to increase the share of manufactured exports relative to total merchandise exports to at least 60%, transform MSMEs into viable, sustainable businesses, contributing to at least 50% of the manufacturing GDP, and of course, create additional 2.3 million jobs through manufacturing. And to achieve these targets, there needs to be a paradigm shift. These will involve dissecting the value chains so that we can effectively contribute to the EAC industrialization drive. And for us, at the moment, we have begun with leather and horticulture to see how we can unlock the potential of these sectors. When now we look at the leather value chain, we find that somebody is on, please, somebody is unmuted the microphone. Thank you. We find that the leather industry is an $100 billion industry, and we have to take advantage of this. Looking at the value chain, of course, for the leather industry, we see that, of course, the first stage is the raw hides and skins. We have, again, converting them into semi-processed, that is the pickled and tanned. The third stage, of course, produces a fully produced finished leather. And the fourth stage is where the leather products are manufactured. These are the broad categories of the entire leather value chain. Of course, there are sub-categories, sub-stages inside them. And on the image you're seeing, of course, this is mostly, of course, during the first stage, where we have the chemical products, fresh hides coming in, and all the raw materials of the soaking, the liming, the fleshing, the splitting. And this is just part of one of the processes in the leather value chain. And maybe now just to give you a perspective of our partner states, when we look at Tanzania, for starters, it enjoys a relatively high livestock endowment with cattle population of around 25 million, 15 million goats, 7 million sheep, and is actually ranked the second largest animal stock in Africa. And they have an installed annual capacity of 124,420,420,000 square feet of leather. And from these, you can find that there's approximately 2 million pairs of shoes produced compared to, of course, 995,000 statistical pairs. And this figure highlights Tanzania's outsized reliance on importing new and second-hand leather footwear, which are traded at much lower prices than similarly locally produced goods. The demand for finished footwear is estimated at 36 million pairs with effective demand of approximately 14 million pairs. This situation is mirrored across the leather sector in general to include all leather goods, whether it is in terms of the bags, the belts, the clothes, and all that. And again, to Uganda, when you look at Uganda again, there's an estimated 14 million cattle, 15 million goats, 4 million sheep, 4 million pigs. And when you look at, the potential given by the endowment of all these livestock, it's vast. And their combined tanning capacity is 1 million hides and 2 million skins, with relatively high capacity utilization between 60 and 70%. However, most of these is wet blue leather. Uganda exports of semi-processed wet blue leather are at 95%. So we are looking at 95% exports in wet blue, and this is essentially leather in its raw form. And the question begs, why can't we do value addition on these products? And therefore, the demand gap is filled by imports of new and used leather footwear products, mainly from China and India, most of which are price competitive compared to locally manufactured products. When you look at Kenya again, the industry is relatively more diversified compared to the EAC peers. Between 2012 and 2016, Kenya slaughtered an average of 2.3 million cattle and 6 million sheep and goats. That is annually. And according to the Kenya Leather Council, there are relatively high levels of capacity utilization in the tannery industry, ranging between 70 and 85%, again, mostly for wet blue. And the value chain, again, is relatively nascent with some level of interconnectedness. We have small players like Dog Bones, we have big players like Alfarama, and large-scale producers, of course, of finished footwear like Bata, Leather Masters. They dominate the finished leather value chain segment, and there's relatively small exports to Europe. Again, for Rwanda and Burundi, they are relatively have smaller markets comparatively in the region, with approximately 8 million pairs and 7 million pairs of footwear produced. That is with an effective demand of 30 to 35% for both countries. Rwanda has also moved to ban the importation of used footwear. That is welcome, especially it's a boost for local manufacturers. And the demand for leather and leather products is really growing in the EAC. There's competition from low-cost sources such as China and India. And we can't help but look at the stagnation in our leather industry. And we really need to improve our branding, bring on board young entrepreneurs and build skills for future production. And now to give you the statistics, the figures, to show how each EAC partner state is doing. And this is just a perspective of the intra-regional trade, which mostly constitutes of rawhide skins, wet blue, and footwear. What you're seeing on your screen, Uganda's trade on rawhides and skins within the EAC region. You can see the major trading partner is Rwanda. A lot of imports from Rwanda, and again, relatively also huge numbers in Kenya, slow in Burundi, and lower in Tanzania. When you look at Kenya for the same product, again, you can see the major trading partner is Rwanda, then Burundi and Uganda. Again, now when you look at Tanzania, the major trading partner becomes Kenya, and maybe I could give you a good perspective. If you look at the bars, the darker one is the imports, the lighter orange brown one is the exports, and you can see here trade is really concentrated between the two countries when it comes to Tanzania, and when it comes to Rwanda, again, you can see the major trading partner is Uganda, then Kenya, then Tanzania, then Burundi. For Burundi, you can see it's Kenya, then Uganda, then Rwanda, then Tanzania. And, when you look at, the trade between all these countries, you have to now begin to question how are these regional value chains working? Where is the leakage? Where is the efficiency? And therefore, the need to dissect these value chains becomes growingly important. And the previous figures were for rawhides and skins. When it comes to wet blue, the major traders are Kenya and Uganda. Figures from 2017 show that Uganda exported wet blue worth $6.5 million to Kenya. Same year, Kenya imported relatively low numbers, 0.1 million, 0.09 million from Tanzania and Burundi respectively. Rwanda registered no trade in wet blue. And now going to the global perspective, remember again, the value chains, we have increasingly grown to have the global value chains, which now stem from the regional value chains, from the national value chains, and from the local value chains. And looking at the EAC trade with the rest of the world in leather, you can see the purple-gray bar is wet blue. So again, little to no value addition. And now becomes the question, beg the question of what is our strategy on leather and leather products. The EAC region now, when we look at it in wholesome, accounts for 3% of the world's total bovine herd, 2% of the sheep herd, 5% of the goat herd. And, in 2017, we had 108 million of livestock, close to 75% of the cattle population is found in Tanzania and Kenya. Our offtake rate is very promising, with figures of 20% compared to 13% for COMESA and SADC. And presently, the EAC region processes leather up to wet blue stage with minimal transformation to finished leather. Between 80 and 90% of the wet blue leather is 10% remains for processing to finished leather, which caters for footwear and other leather products. 10% remains for finished processing. So the leather goods manufacturing industry is for also other items such as handbags, belts, seat covers, etc. Someone is unmuted. Heavily related.
IT team, if you could kindly mute where the sound is coming from.
Thank you. So what we are saying is that when you look at the international market, the price of finished leather is about $5 per square feet. yet we sell wet blue at $1.5 per square feet. This suggests that the exports, which are mainly wet blue, will lose as much as $3.5 per square feet. And based on this trend and taking on projection of 5 years, we're talking about leakages and losses, lost opportunity of $3.2 billion every 5 years. And let us take advantage of this, and that is why we are looking at the inefficiencies alongside our supply chain, the gaps, so that we can be able to make proper recommendations and grow our leather industry. And therefore, ultimately, for every dollar of raw leather exported, is lost due to lack of value addition. And therefore, we are saying that implementation of course, this EAC regional strategy is welcome, and it will need a unit to be established at the EAC Secretariat and at partner states levels, leather boards, councils, and platforms working through the National Leather Sector Platform. And strong leadership from regional bodies is needed to ensure that leather strategy action, the leather action plan, is implemented. And therefore, we call for a multi-stakeholder approach to ensure the strategy is effectively implemented. And now to give you the challenges facing the leather sector and the most problematic factors. And this is coming from the EAC, Leather and Leather Product Strategy. The biggest major constraint, it relates to constrained market demand due to the high presence of used footwear as well as synthetic plastic shoes, which are priced way below the production costs of local producers. And you can see on the figure itself, that is the value leakage, continuous export of wet blue. We have low quality of hides and skins, up to 30% are unusable. Tanneries are underutilized at about 40%, lack of affordable finance for tanneries and growth of SMEs, poor collection system for delivering right quality hides and skins, limited availability of finished leather for local shoes, exponential demand for imported leather products, inadequate collaboration among value chain agents, unskilled manpower, lack of exposure to the global designs, and overdependence on traditional markets and inappropriate policy framework to incentivize leather goods. So these gaps, maybe just to give a little bit more perspective into them, you find that the minimum of value added and the opportunities partner states need to seize to further the competitiveness of their value chains. And we have some monopoly in big tanneries, the low quality hides of skins. And, presently close to 40% of raw hides and skins purchased by tanneries are rejected with huge defects, deep flake cut, they are shapeless, and etc. And therefore, 60%, 5 to 10% are usable because they are easily hauled during the process of lining and tanning. Again, access to finance is also another problematic factor which is critical in value addition. And we need to incentivize our SMEs so that we can stimulate innovation, so that we can stimulate value addition and increase competitiveness in our value chains. Sorry, somebody's on, please mute. Thank you. So now, again, when we look at all these challenges that we have just mentioned and all these gaps that we are seeing in the EAC leather sector, the potential for both domestic and export markets is enormous, because with the region currently having a monthly demand of about, let's say, 6,000 pairs for industrial shoes, security, safety, and in industries. However, the current production is only about 60,000 shoes per month. So we really need to step up our game in the leather value chain sector. And looking at, just maybe take you back to this graph, I think we really need to internalize and see how do we make policies that enable value chains? How do we engage the right stakeholders so that we can increase productivity for the private sector? And therefore, maybe just now to sum up on the leather, the recommendations that we probably give now is that we need improvement programs across the value chain, whether it is in terms of extension services at the center of the of animal well-being, so that we have high quality hides and skins. We need a health program for the animals, but again, remember, same animals, we consume the meat. So this is social responsibility. Again, alternative branding and traceability systems, improved animal husbandry, regulation within abattoirs, classification of skins and hides. All these are improvement programs meant to cut across the entire value chain. Again, the other recommendation is really recommend enhanced local public procurement. And as I mentioned this, I would like to give an example of the COVID situation we have had. We have seen industries, warehouses transform into factories overnight and produce products. And whether it is in whatever sector that we have seen that we have the potential, we have the capacity. Let us do the same for the leather industry. Let us enhance local public procurement of leather goods. And okay, for starters, we have military procurement. The police, the military, they could use with the myriad of leather products. In the construction industry, in the hospitals, and other public institutions that do not even have an idea of how this works. And therefore, we are calling upon governments to really bring on board local players, SMEs, and big firms alike, so that we can be able to do value addition and increase production in our industries. Again, for financing, we are looking at growing a leather sector, and one of the things is that having a fund that can finance the leather sector could be very important. And having a sales tax on animals slaughtered could be used to create a fund to finance the leather sector. Again, introducing a levy on imported footwear and leather goods above the common external tariff rates could also chip into the fund. Again, a levy on exports of raw hides and skins, chip into the fund. And partner states can also do and develop special purpose investment vehicles to finance investment into the industry. The other recommendation is access to technology and skills. EAC governments should modernize various training and manufacturing facilities in the partner states in order to enhance access to both technology and skills. And last but not least, of course, is the due to application of export taxes, but some partner states, export taxes should not apply to hides and skins across the East African community. I really do hope that you're following, and maybe now to give you the other perspective in terms of fruits and vegetables, and also
thank you so much. I think before you get into the fruits and the vegetables value chain, I would like to encourage our participants to visit our chat room and our social media handles for any questions, comments, or input to this discussion. Thank you, and you may proceed. Kindly take us through the next presentation, maybe highlighting the key issues, since time is also not our best ally today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamek. I'm going to make it short and sweet. So just like the fruits on the screen, and therefore, maybe just now to begin, the fruits and vegetable sector is really significant to EAC economies. For example, in Tanzania, the horticulture subsector employs about 2.5 million people, making it a major employer within the agriculture sector. And the sector is very, very vital for sustainable food security in the region. And with the coming into force of the ACFTA, we see this sector as having very high prospects, both short and long term, you know, come January 2020. And therefore, for our local farmers, for local producers, manufacturers, how do we take advantage of this? And where are the gaps in this value chain? And how can we be able to increase value addition into these raw products? And maybe to give you a glimpse of the components of the fruits and vegetable value chain, we have the seed systems, soil and irrigation, pest management, post-harvest practices, food safety, nutrition, gender considerations, training and extension. And all these are very vital in ensuring efficiency along the entire supply chain. And maybe not just to start off, our trade in this is intra-EAC trade in edible fruits. We can see that it has really experienced an erratic growth with sharp declines and increases throughout the period. Overall, they have declined from these are exports have declined from $28 million in 2012 to $10 million in 2018. However, imports have enjoyed relatively steady increase from $5 million to $16 million over the same period. When you look at edible vegetables, this one has really witnessed tremendous growth with very, very high values. Looking at the exports and imports, $41 million, $52 million to $118 million to $127 million respectively since 2012 to 2018. This is more than double the amount over a 6-year period. So what is happening in edible vegetables that is also not happening in edible fruits? This also takes us now to EAC trade with the rest of the world. When you look at edible fruit, the imports are in blue. They have increased marginally. The exports have increased in a rather erratic way. And for the edible vegetables, again, we can see the kind of curve that is happening shows that there is a lot of inefficiencies because 1 year is high, 1 year is low. So what is happening alongside the value chain? And while we can see that from the figures and also from data from TradeMap, ITC TradeMap, you find that our trade with the rest of the world has a positive trade balance on edible fruits and vegetables. However, that's 0.4% and 0.75% average share, compared to total world trade during the same period. And the question is, my CEO keeps saying that, if we are to make Africa the factory of the world, we cannot make it with the levels of 0.4%. And therefore, we can see that we have absolute advantages that we can leverage on to boost output in the sector, given the fertile loamy soils, the tropical climates in our partner states, and given the potential benefits of participating in regional and global value chains. Analysis of our comparative advantages is also key in increasing efficiency, in sourcing inputs, developing value addition for industries, in manufacturing processed fruit and vegetable products, marketing to consumers, and seamless transport and logistics system. Trade in the entire fruits and vegetable sector, both fresh and processed, indicates that trade is largely in the primary form of these products. Like I said before, we have had witnessed growth in nascent industries. We have seen companies grow in the region, and therefore, the question is, what factors are crucial in dissecting the value chain in order to identify gaps and formulate feasible recommendations. And therefore, we have to look at structures and regulations, production technologies, cost thresholds, the ability to meet particular standards, and the impact of foreign investment in the downstream and upstream. This is the packaging, the retail, R&D, sourcing the inputs, and all core production activities. And this takes us to the socioeconomic dynamics of horticultural value chain logistics. And in recent years, a renewed focus on agriculture has been evident in Africa's development agenda. Around 450 million stakeholder farmers around the world face poor marketing linkages. Additionally, farming practices are characterized by low productivity due to dependence on family labor, lack of access to resources and inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, irrigation, equipment, and machinery. And therefore, to feed 9.3 billion by the middle of this century, we need to raise our global food production by around 70%. Ironically, the majority of people currently suffering chronic hunger are the rural poor who work in agriculture, livestock rearing, or fishing. And therefore, in this increasingly globalized world, the Kenyan farmer, the Ugandan farmer, the Tanzanian farmer, the South Sudanese farmer, the Burundian farmer, the Rwandese farmer must compete with other producers from developing countries, whether it's Egypt, South Africa, Mauritius, and again compete with producers who have the volumes, who have the quality from developed countries such as Spain, Brazil, Peru. And therefore, we need to act fast. We need to eliminate these constraints in our trading, in our transport chains, so that we can develop our regional, national, and local value chains to international markets. And one other crucial aspect we see in the fruits and vegetable value chain that is important is climate smart agriculture. Leveraging on ICT platforms is very, very crucial in the value chain. Even now, especially with the growth of digital commerce. And these applications are important in helping the farmers out there to get marketing and pricing information systems, applications which help entrepreneurs and buyers manage transactions with the large number of small-scale farmers who supply to them. We need to leverage on mobile banking systems such as M-Pesa and associated applications that facilitate mobile payments. We need to leverage on our SMS, text messaging applications for enabling environment protection advocacy. And these are the same systems that are used for forecasting and early warning to farmers of adverse weather changes so that they can prepare in advance so that their fruits, their vegetables remain safe. And therefore, going alongside all this, as I conclude and as we also try to wrap up, the quality infrastructure in standards in SPS is very crucial in the fruits and vegetables sector. Because currently, there's a delay in the finalization of the Standards Accreditation and Conformity Assessment Bill 2017. But we are hoping that they fast track this so that we can have a level playing field that goods can move seamlessly across our borders when it comes to standards. And one thing we cannot, of course, ignore here is the regulation of food when it comes to safety standards, when it comes to SPS measures. These are the things that gets at the border, they have to comply with. And therefore, these again, it's the part of the supply chain, it's part of the value chain. And therefore, how prepared are our farmers? How prepared are our businessmen, are our traders, our cross-border traders with such SPS measures, such standard measures? And therefore, it's really important to look at the certification, the conformity assessment, the testing, the capacity that we have in our region and how it trickles down to our farmers. And therefore, again, COVID came and it taught us a lot of lessons. And while it continues to impact activities around the world, we have seen great developments. And the demand for fresh fruit and vegetables has changed. There aren't enough workers to harvest crops, but we have seen this change, alongside the supply chain. But again, the air transport was affected, which is responsible for major supply of fruits and vegetables, whether it is to Europe, to Asia, from our region. And therefore, we need to do a reality check and look at the linkages, the risks, the strengths, the weaknesses, so that we can be better prepared in the coming crisis. Let us flatten the food insecurity curve. And now, maybe to be more specific on the challenges facing the development of the fruits and vegetables value chain. Low productivity, due to inadequate credit to finance the purchase of inputs and capital investment, inadequate storage facilities constraining the marketability of horticultural products, horticultural marketing information and infrastructure is poorly organized. There's overdependence on external market outlets that makes horticulture very vulnerable to changes in the demand for horticultural products and unexpected NTBs by foreign markets. Underdeveloped rural roads and other key physical infrastructure have led to high costs of transporting products to the markets and farm inputs. Again, electricity is also expensive in rural areas, and this reduces the investment in cold storage facilities, in irrigation, in agro. Horticultural farmers, again, farmers and off-takers have been subjected to multiple number of taxes at regional, national, and local levels. And this reduces their net incomes and really makes it really, really difficult for them to expand and to grow their produce and even have money to do more innovation. And therefore, on the same line, when you look at it, the fact that we have the fruits and vegetables are highly perishable and producers lack appropriate infrastructure for marketing, post-harvest handling introduce losses, and inadequate capacity to regulate, enforce, and comply with SPS measures. Various horticultural actors are not well coordinated, and expensive and unreliable digital connectivity. So now, maybe just to finish off on the fruits and vegetables, when you look at the recommendations for the value chain and how we can increase efficiency along it, how we can close these gaps, we are saying that we need to abolish import tariffs and VAT on imported seeds and seedlings plus other inputs for increased availability of improved inputs to farmers. EAC partner states should consider lowering jet fuel taxes, landing and turnaround fees, especially for regional airlines, to reduce the transport costs incurred by the producers. Partner states should set up different electricity lines for horticultural farmers to ensure continuous supply of electricity to the farms. And this is now even with the picture of now the new technology in farming, climate smart agriculture. And we need to avail affordable credit facilities to horticultural farmers. Partner states should upgrade current cold storage facilities to efficiently handle horticultural products. Again, this is reducing the leakage along the supply chain. More emphasis should be put on harmonizing the most traded items, including fruit juices, jams, dried vegetables, to enhance cross-border trade. We need to engage relevant institutions handling SPS and the EAC Secretariat to establish an EAC committee on SPS measures. Again, of course, we're also waiting for, this will also be possible if all partner states ratify the SPS protocol. And EAC partner states should also consider lowering the cost of produce from horticulture farmers. And again, also fast track the ratification of the EAC SPS protocol. So that's it from my side. I do thank you for your time, and back to you, Lamek.
Thank you very much, Sylvester, for that detailed presentation. Actually, there were almost two presentations in one. Thank you very much for that. We have a very busy chat room, and at some point I'll be taking you through this chat room. However, in this same call, we have Mr. George Okundi, who is also at the EAC GFA project, working on value chains. And I would wish to also invite him on the current work he's doing, that he could also add some kind of insights to this discussion, and what he is also proposing and how we can synergize. Already in the chat room, there was a question of what could be the difference between the study which EABC has done vis-a-vis what is being undertaken at the EAC. So in maybe about 2 to 3 minutes, is Mr. Okundi listening?
Yes, Lamek, thank you. Thank you very much for putting up a very informative and timely conversation on this regional value chains, as they are very critical and prioritized by the EAC, especially in contribution to the industrialization mandate. Presentations have been good. I think it's very enlightening. I just want to also sound out that there's some statistics that needs to be a little more clear to enable us appraise the contribution or the happenings that are taking place in these two sectors. First, I'd like to just sound again what I requested, was that truly, usually when we refer to the value of the leather sector, we usually refer to the global. But I think the perspective of the regional value that is derived from intra-EAC trade in leather and leather products needs to come out clearly, so that we can see, we can muzzle all our efforts in trying to enhance the value of that trade intra-regionally, and be able to compare ourselves to what the world perspective is in terms of the value of leather and leather products. Secondly, leather is now positioned very well because with the help of TIMEA, the EAC now has a strategy which has even been adopted and by the STIFI, the Sectoral Committee on Trade, Investment, and I think STIFI, you know what STIFI is. I can't seem to get all the other acronyms. So there's a blueprint which I'm glad that you have picked out the good pieces in it to help drive the leather sector and help it contribute to the industrialization mandate of the region. We have issues, especially on cross-border trade. With respect to these two value chains and even other value chains that are not of focus today, but I think this forum provides now a very good opportunity for us to look at those nitty-gritty issues that needs to be harmonized and to enable our traders, our stakeholders who engage in this sector to benefit from the harmonized trade regimes that are supposed to be the operating normal to enable us realize the mandate of integrating the region. But secondly, on fruits and vegetables, I'd like to maybe just update and concur with my colleague Marvin that we are in the process of finalizing the regional fruits and vegetables strategy and action plan, which will come up shortly by end of the month or early November for validation by the Secretariat together with the partner states, and move it for approval to the STIFI. And many issues that you have mentioned in the presentation are indeed also the issues that the partner states have aggregated together in this coming strategic document. So we are happy to participate with you and to collaborate and help advance this sector, the fruits and vegetables and the leather. And I think we are in a better position if we discuss like this, so that we can pick out pieces that need to be on the forefront in enhancing the competitiveness of these two value chains. I think that's all I had for now. Thank you, Lamek, and thank you, team, for putting up a very nice communication and discussion forum.
Mr. Kundi, before you go off, I still need you for about 1 minute. As you're talking, somebody sent in some questions through our social media platforms, and he's saying within the EAC, what could be hindering value addition to these value chains so as to bridge the gaps, and what could be done, and who should be the main promoter? Then the other one is among the major issues the value chain actors face is compliance to foreign market standards and efficiency in handling from farm to market. So the question is saying, what are the quick intersections that should be deployed? These are the two quick questions which came in. Maybe you can kindly come in before we go to other questions in the chat room. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamek. I think it's an open question that all the experts on board here can contribute to, but my take is that what is constraining fruits and vegetables processing, if I understood you well, we have generated
Yes.
some information in that strategic document, which is coming up shortly. And we explored a lot of perspectives to processing the value addition aspect, which, as you may have heard earlier, is related to the component of our project, Regional Industrial Value Addition. And each of the partner states that we talk to have varied approaches and strategies that they've been pursuing independently, which now are going to come to be coordinated at a common level at the regional level, EAC. And in it, there are several shortfalls or constraints that each of the partner states are having. And we've suggested a few concrete action-oriented interventions requiring even support from development partners that we hope will be taken up. I can't mention specific ones, but then I think it's a conversation that we're going to have continually when we do the validation, and EABC and stakeholders will be invited also to contribute to finalize the strategic actions that needs to be implemented by partner states in order to have a unified improvement in value addition and the issues of post-harvest losses in the fruits and vegetables value chain, even in leather. Leather, although has been addressed, but it continues to be addressed still because we have also shortfalls and constraints even in environmental pollution, which are results of wastes just being thrown and not being handled properly in tanneries. So I think there are a lot of aspects to our lack of capacity in processing, which we will have to face squarely, technically, and with the contributions from even the industry players, the private sector, so that we can have a working document that we can use to enhance and develop the fruits and vegetable sector. But secondly, also on, I think the aspect of trade in fruits and vegetables with reference to trade facilitation, which refers to instruments that enable trade in these products. I think so far EAC has moved very well within the protocols that were established to enable that aspect of trade. But still in the fruits and vegetables sector, the cross-border trade suffers from also individual or partner states using their own standards, which on comparison, despite the availability of harmonized standards, mutual recognition issues are a problem. But I'd like to assure you, and Markup, if they are on this platform, will also concur that a lot of work is being put up by Markup to help us revise, introduce and develop standards that are facilitating not only inter-regional trade, but also international trade. So all is not lost. We are on a path to development and recovering even lost ground that has been there, including widening the scope of products from fruits and vegetables that are to be traded.
Do our people know?
Yes, I think there's somebody who was interfering. Mr. Okundu, were you through?
Yeah, I'm through, but I think Martin is in the forum, he could add something on the trade facilitation instruments that enable fruits and vegetables to be traded regionally and internationally, especially the standards. I submit, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okundi. I think Martin is not in. I've tried to check. I think he's not in. But thank you for that chipping in and providing some clarification on what is going on, and also hinting on the new strategy on the fruits and vegetables, which is about to be finalized. Thank you so much. Allow me to get into our chat room. In question number 1 was on the EAC, the current trade value for the EAC leather sector. I think what we managed to get was statistics of up to 2018. But going forward, I think we'll be able to update. We try to get in touch with the bureaus of statistics, but what could be availed at that time were statistics for up to 2018. The other question was on thanking EABC and saying fruits and vegetables, is setting a light on vegetables in East Africa, looking into inadequate transport due to the lack of the transport facilities and undeveloped roads, air being highly expensive, railway with short connection. How prepared is East Africa, say partner states policies, to enhance this challenge? And road network is the only means in East Africa and still not convenient to move products to market, as well as modern storage facilities. I will invite in my colleague who is in charge of transport and logistics, but just to briefly respond to this is that some partner states of the sorry for that. Some partner states, some EAC partner states have earmarked infrastructure development targeting key productive areas of their economies, and as well as the key trade corridors. And this is very crucial to ensure that merchandise from these value chains are transported. When you look at how expensive the air transport is and how we do not have the storage facilities, I think this has been part of our advocacy, and partner states through, again, infrastructure, the infrastructure budgets, some of them have earmarked for this, but it is not the best, as private sector is still experiencing challenges, especially when, especially with their target markets, which are outside the region, especially in the Far East, in Europe, and so on. But maybe if Mr. Kamanzi can just come in to chip on the issue of expensive air transport within the region, and also a touch on railway transport. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lamek. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for participating in this very important webinar. We could see, what I could say, and much of it you have said it all, Lamek. Everything at the moment is about, it's a process, and it's a process of trying to facilitate movement of goods amidst even this COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. So we tend to have seen that prices have increased because, first of all, the EAC sky is not fully liberalized, meaning that the fact that it's not liberalized, it leads to increase in cost in terms of even our aircrafts landing on regional airports. So what does that mean? It means that it will definitely, the cost will definitely be transferred to the last consumer. So I think with at the moment, there's a process of trying to liberalize the EAC airspace such that the levies, charges, and other fares that lead to increase in cost of landing are a bit relaxed to ensure that products can move from each partner state at a rather reduced price. Remember, it's not only our airlines that are landing on these regional airports, even other foreign airlines are landing. And most of these regional airlines have been subsidized from their mother countries, their host countries. So you can imagine competing with a particular airline that has been their operational costs are not as much as our own. Definitely, our local airlines will be a bit expensive. So what we are calling upon is a liberalized airspace such that cargo can move. And even they can be able to, for example, Rwanda can be able to pick cargo from Kenya and from Burundi, from South Sudan without a restriction. That will ease movement of goods. So we actually around March, April, we developed the EAC regional position paper on movement of cargo and liberalization of airspace to be able to move products from to pick products from our regional airports without restrictions. Since we were in a state of emergency. So this is a position paper that we pushed forward to even the Council of Ministers, and we tried to see a relaxation of a few of those restrictions. I think for you, it was on record that you may have seen in the media where Rwanda was able to pick cargo from Mwanza, pick fish. We have seen Emirates moving inside Kenya to move product, which was not the case before. So these are continuous discussions. Of course, advocacy is a process, but of course we appreciate the wins that we keep registering, even at a time of emergency like this. Then on the rail, of course there are various. That's a huge venture, and we appreciate like Kenya and URT, United Republic of Tanzania, that have invested hugely in these SGRs. And we definitely expect that it will reap much results than now, because the road networks, first of all, it's not well interconnected by other borders. So we expect much. We can only call upon our partner states to invest and keep investing hugely in these ventures, because at the moment the maritime and road networks, I could say, are not enough in trying to move our product. So the complementarity of the rail means of transport is well awaited for, and we hope that it will bridge the gap in the logistical bottlenecks that have been faced by our partner states. But of course, without it, definitely movement of cargo, even not only these value chains, but even the other products, will be a bit difficult. So at EABC, we call upon our partner states to invest hugely in this infrastructure to ensure that products move and move seamlessly without restrictions. Thank you, Lamek. Maybe back to you.
Thank you for the response to the question. I think quickly running through, there was a question on the difference between the EAC value chain and the value chain study, and this one, I think it was responded to by Mr. Okundi, but just to add on is that from our perspective, we did this from the perspective of what are some of the key issues the private sector is pushing to the policymakers, both under the fruits and vegetables value chain, as well as the leather value chain. We also, in our main report, included those which could be long-term in nature and those which could be the quick wins. But again, we are building synergies, and we'll be comparing notes. George had asked some question here, what the Loctinto scenario for selling processed fruits, processed vegetables. This is important for in driving the manufacturing goals of the EAC region. Yes, George, this is true and it is important. And as a way of creating value chains, we need to see each partner state which has a advantage of producing another trade with the other partner state. One of the key milestones to this is, one, you will resolve a non-tariff barrier, because there will be we shall have shared inputs and also shared actually shared inputs. Yes, so the good will be only the scenario is that promoting intra-EAC trade in these specific items will be very, very key once we try to address some of these other bottlenecks. There was a question which came from Bruce. To what degree does EABC talk to COMESA, as they also have a leather strategy? Currently, EABC has a tripartite arrangement with not only COMESA, but also with SADC. And as a private sector, we usually meet with the COMESA Business Council and with the SADC Business Council. We have that kind of tripartite arrangement. And maybe if I get into what you really wanted to be highlighted, the present scenario seems to be more about each country developing their own value chain with processing with, just a second, I think I skipped it. Yeah, that each country seems to be about having to develop their own value chain processing than regional value chains per se. I think this is something we are at arrangement of the three business councils, not only positioning ourselves within the tripartite arrangement on the tripartite free trade area, but also with a strategic focus on the African continental free trade area. And you went further to say you'd be interested in views on stops cross-border regional value chains, given political objectives in each EAC member to promote their own leather, not to mention you're giving an example of Ethiopia. I think Ethiopia is a good example to benchmark if you are trying to develop the regional value chain. And yes, we take it positively, like that in our engagements. This is some of the focus countries where we can benchmark on in developing our leather value chain. Then the other one, how can we work together towards regional quality seeds and seedlings sources? I think we have, in addition to what we import from outside, I think our national agricultural organizations or research institutes are doing quite a commendable job in trying to come up with seed varieties, some of which are mature quickly, and you will be engaging them going forward to ensure that the stakeholders or the farmers get quality seeds. Which challenges regarding SPS and TBT measures as considered in the new standards and accreditation bill? Our desire for for the SACA bill, which we ably mentioned here, was that we needed the process of developing and harmonizing an East African standard to be shortened. At the present moment is that some standards go to the Sectoral Council on Finance, Trade and Investments to be declared, while even some others go to the Council of Ministers. So our advocacy within this bill was that the process of developing these standards stops at the East African Standards Committee level, which is a committee of the CEOs of the Bureaus of Standards. So we believe those were technical people. Once they approve a standard, we knew that they would be able to have approved the right standard. So the process of going again to the policymakers to approve what the technical person or what science has said, we saw it was kind of a waste of time. And under the same SACA bill, there was a clause which was missing in the previous SQMT Act of having a framework of developing technical regulations. Technical regulations were one of the key challenges the region was facing, and this was resulting into quite a number of standard tariff barriers. So our advocacy was to insert a clause which ensures that there will be an EAC technical regulations framework developed such that some of these barriers can be addressed. And then SPS, as we know, SPS has not yet been ratified by United Republic of Tanzania, and it is what we are working on to ensure that the ratification process takes place. Once it is ratified, bills like the SPS bill will be fast-tracked, and those are that's a very serious bill to the private sector. And then on the development of harmonized measures, SPS measures across the region. Then there is also some, it's one I skipped, there's some Swahili here. Kwa kweli, mkutano huu ni muhimu kwa wafanyakazi za ngozi, ila network inasumbua sisi sana. Iko very interesting. Thank you very much from Vitegesimana. Then the other question, what next after this study and webinar? I think after this is that the recommendations from this, after all the input which we are getting through this chat room and what we have been receiving on social media, will be sending them to the policymakers at the regional level. I think we still have a couple, some. My name is Jennifer Mbovi from Goldbar. Thank you for the good. I see the topic on workers and labor in general is missing in this discussion, and the difference in labor laws and this contributes to pricing and other social issues. I think we will look at incorporating this, the issue of workers, maybe probably working in our horticultural farms and all leather factories. I think we have one more here. I don't know whether, yeah, I think that is that's the end of the questions within our chat room. And as we look at our time, I think we're about 4 minutes late of our time. At this moment, I think unless if there's any other person who is raising their hand for any further comment and or further input, I would wish to welcome our CEO, Dr. Peter Mathuki, to give closing remarks. Thank you.
Lamek?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir.
My name is John Bosco Sagara.
Yes, sir.
May you allow me to make a comment at least on Sky Freedom? I had wanted earlier to supplement on Mr.
Sure.
Kamanzi's comments.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah, as you may or may not be aware, Lamek, that our region has continued to suffer with prohibitive airfares and poor quality service as a result of refusal by most partner states, actually, to open up their skies to regional operators by denying them fifth freedom facility. EAC has a strong hub, but the region has made little progress towards market liberalization. There is therefore a need to implement the fifth freedom among EAC partner states to minimize air transport costs and increase freight turnaround, and then export of vegetables will be smooth. We must move from conference papers surely to in-field action. And in order to do this, we need to continue the government's commitments on all NTBs if we have to compete on continental markets. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director, for that key submission. We will take it on board as we finalize our paper. Once again, allow me to see if the CEO is in to give the closing remarks. I think he could be having some network challenges. I think as a way, is the CEO in? IT team? I think it seems the CEO is having some challenges.
Is not in.
Okay, thank you, Lillian. I think as a way of concluding this webinar is to once again thank you for availing yourself to take part in this webinar. We appreciate your time and your presence throughout, and we want to assure you that we have captured all your input to this paper. A paper once finalized will be submitted to EAC Secretariat and other policymakers within the partner states. Allow me to also thank our partners GIZ for partnering with us in undertaking this paper and writing this paper, and for the technical support you avail to us. Our team at the Secretariat, asante sana, and if there's no other urgent matter, I would wish you a great evening within the partner states, wherever you are. Thank you very much. I remain Lamek Wesonga. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamek.
Thank you.